Here's a paradox that will flip everything you believe about trading. The traders who blow up accounts aren't the reckless risk takers. They're the ones desperately trying to avoid losses. Your survival instincts, perfectly designed to keep your ancestors alive on the savannah, are systematically destroying your trading capital. While you're focused on being right about individual trades, professional operators focus on being wrong profitably. This isn't about finding a better strategy or indicator. It's about rewiring the primal fear responses that turn every red candle into a life or death crisis. Think about it. When your ancestor heard rustling in the bushes, the ones who assumed it was just wind became lion food. The paranoid ones who ran at every sound survived to pass on their genes. You inherited that hypervigilant nervous system, and it served humanity well for 200,000 years. But now it's killing your account. Your brain treats every losing trade like a physical threat. That red number triggers the same neurochemical cascade that helped your ancestors escape predators. Adrenaline floods your system. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for rational decisions, goes offline. You're no longer analyzing probability. You're a frightened primate in fight or flight mode. This is why you move your stop loss when price approaches it. This is why you add to losing positions, hoping to average down the pain. This is why you close winners too early. Your survival brain interprets unrealized profit as a resource that could be stolen. Your nervous system doesn't understand that in trading, small losses are the price of staying in the game long enough for your edge to compound. Think like a sniper, not a brawler. A sniper passes on most shots, breathes, checks conditions, and only squeezes when everything aligns. Professional operators understand this biological reality and work with it instead of against it. They don't fight their fear. They systematize around it. They measure success by how well they lose, not how often they win. They celebrate the perfect execution of a losing trade because they know that discipline in defeat builds the psychological muscle needed for long-term survival. Gamblers celebrate wins and ignore the process that created them, which is why they give back gains as quickly as they made them. By the end of this journey, you'll possess the complete operator protocol, a systematic approach to risk that transforms your relationship with uncertainty from reactive fear to calculated advantage. You'll master the 3 dials that control your fate: size, stop, and state. You'll implement the 2-minute checklist that removes 80% of emotional sabotage before it happens. You'll understand your personal risk of ruin number and the specific protocols that separate professional operators from emotional gamblers. But ignore this, and you'll keep feeding the market casino, stacking not just financial losses, but psychological damage. The shame spirals after blown trades. The identity collapse when you realize you're sabotaging your own success. The crushing realization that you're your own worst enemy. Every rule violation doesn't just cost money. It erodes your confidence in your ability to trust yourself with anything that matters. The choice is binary: remain a gambler chasing dopamine hits from individual outcomes, or become an operator managing probability for compound growth. I've tracked the patterns of hundreds of retail traders, and here's what the data reveals. 90% of blown accounts share 3 identical psychological signatures that have nothing to do with market direction or strategy quality. Your risk of ruin number, the mathematical probability you'll lose everything, is likely 5 to 10 times higher than you think, and it's hiding in plain sight in your position sizing and emotional patterns. Most traders focus on win rate and forget about the psychological variance that turns small edges into large losses through inconsistent execution. Your account is about to become your most expensive therapist. Unless you learn to operate like a professional instead of react like a frightened primate. The market doesn't care about your feelings, but it will exploit every unresolved psychological issue until you address it systematically. So what are these 3 psychological signatures that predict account destruction with mathematical certainty? And how do they manifest in ways that turn seemingly small errors into catastrophic losses? You know, fear and greed destroy accounts, but there's a third psychological force that's actually more lethal, and 95% of traders never see it coming. It's not what you think. This chapter destroys the comfortable lie that mechanical stop losses and risk management rules can substitute for psychological discipline. Here's the brutal truth your trading educator won't tell you. Your stop loss doesn't manage risk. It manages single trades. Real risk lives in your position sizing, your frequency, your emotional state, and most critically, your ability to execute rules when your brain is screaming at you to do something else. Think of mechanical tools like having a perfect fire extinguisher in a house where you keep lighting matches. The extinguisher is necessary, but it's not sufficient if you can't stop creating fires. You can have flawless stop placement and still blow up through position sizing errors. You can have perfect technical setups and still destroy your account through overtrading. The mechanical tools protect you from individual trade disasters, but they can't protect you from the systematic erosion of discipline that kills accounts slowly, then suddenly. Let's map the 3 account killers to their specific destruction patterns. Fear creates the classic hesitation revenge cycle. You see your A+ setup, but fear of being wrong makes you hesitate. You watch it work without you. Now you're angry at yourself and the market. When the next marginal setup appears, you jump in to make up for the missed opportunity. But revenge trades are emotional trades, and emotional trades violate every rule you know about position sizing, stop placement, and setup quality. Fear doesn't just make you miss good trades, it makes you take terrible ones. Greed operates differently, but just as lethally. Greed makes you size up when you're winning, violating your risk protocols when you feel invincible. It makes you hold winners past your plan, watching profitable trades turn into losses because you couldn't accept good enough profits. Most dangerously, greed shifts your reference point from process to payout, making every decision about maximizing this trade instead of optimizing long-term expectancy. But the deadliest emotion isn't fear or greed. It's the need for stimulation and validation. Boredom kills more accounts than volatility. When markets go sideways, when your setup doesn't appear for 3 days, when you're sitting with small profits but not enough excitement, this hidden force drives unnecessary trades, rule violations, and the slow bleed of death by 1,000 cuts. It's why traders with perfect technical setups still blow up through overtrading. The most dangerous trading days are often the quiet ones. Here's concrete proof. Imagine a strategy with 45% win rate, average win of 1.8 R, average loss of 1 R. Purely executed at 1% risk, the expectancy is positive, but fold in emotion. You skip 1 in 5 winners from fear, you double size on 2 trades per week from greed, and you take 3 boredom trades per week that average negative 0.5 R each. The expectancy collapses. Your edge dies not from strategy failure, but from variance you manufactured through emotional execution. This stimulation addiction explains why profitable strategies stop working when you start trading them live. The strategy hasn't changed. Your execution has. Your stimulation-seeking brain interprets calm markets as missed opportunities. You start lowering your standards for trade entry. You begin firing at B-grade and C-grade setups because sitting on your hands feels like losing. You convince yourself that staying active is part of being professional, when actually it's the fastest way to turn positive expectancy into account destruction. Every blown account is a story of one of these 3 emotions hijacking the operator's protocol. But here's what separates this from typical trading psychology advice. These aren't character flaws to overcome through willpower. They're predictable neurochemical responses that can be systematized around. The question isn't whether you'll feel these emotions, you will. The question is whether you'll have protocols in place to neutralize them before they neutralize your account. Your trading account is about to become a diagnostic mirror, revealing these patterns in real time through the mathematical signature they leave in your results. So what does your account reveal about which killer emotion is sabotaging your success? Your trading account is a perfect mirror, reflecting your relationship with uncertainty, control, and self-worth. The market doesn't care about your feelings, but it will exploit every unresolved psychological issue until you address it systematically. Professional operators understand this mirror effect and use it as a diagnostic tool, while gamblers remain blind to what their results are actually telling them about their inner world. Your equity curve isn't random market noise. It's a mathematical expression of your psychological patterns under stress. Every trading pattern reflects a specific psychological pattern with surgical precision. Overtrading mirrors anxiety about missing out and an addiction to constant stimulation that stems from deeper control issues. You can't sit still because stillness feels like losing, even when activity is what's actually destroying your account. Undersized positions reflect fear of being wrong and a desperate need for psychological comfort over mathematical optimization. You are more afraid of the shame of a large loss than you are committed to the compound growth that requires accepting larger individual risks. Revenge trading mirrors your inability to accept being human and making mistakes. When you lose, you don't just lose money, you lose face with yourself. Your ego can't tolerate being wrong, so it demands immediate vindication through the next trade. Adding to losers reflects hope addiction and your inability to accept present reality. You'd rather throw good money after bad than admit your initial analysis was wrong. Moving stops reveals control addiction, the fantasy that micro-adjustments can rescue poor planning. The market becomes your most expensive therapist, charging brutal fees for every unresolved psychological issue you bring to your trading desk. Let's prove this with brutal mathematics that strips away all comfortable self-deception. Two traders, identical strategy, same win rate, same average win-loss ratio. On paper, both should produce identical results. Trader A risks 3% per trade, but violates stops 30% of the time during emotional spikes and adds to losing positions during drawdown periods. Trader B risks 1% with mechanical stops, never adds to losers regardless of conviction, and sits out emotionally charged days entirely. Over 100 trades, the mathematical divergence is devastating. Trader A's probability of ruin exceeds 60% due to variance plus emotional deviations from optimal execution. Those stop violations don't just cost extra money. They create fat tail events that can wipe out months of gains in single emotional episodes. Trader B's ruin probability stays below 5% because consistent execution at smaller size prevents the emotional spiral that leads to catastrophic violations. The difference isn't strategy, market timing, or intelligence. It's psychology expressed through position sizing and rule adherence under stress. Want concrete proof from your own trading? Audit your last 20 trades using 3 diagnostic metrics: state, calm, anxious, tilted, setup. Quality, A grade, B grade, marginal, and size adherence, at plan, above plan, below plan. Then color code each outcome by execution quality, not profit and loss. Green for full protocol adherence, yellow for partial compliance, red for complete rule violations. Patterns jump off the page immediately. Your equity curve becomes a psychological EKG. Professional operators show boring, steady stair steps with shallow drawdowns. They compound edges through consistency. Gamblers show violent heart monitor spikes, deep drops, sudden recoveries, eventual flatlines. If your average loss exceeds your planned loss, that's not bad luck. That's identity showing through behavior. If your trade frequency explodes during choppy markets, that's not opportunity recognition. That's anxiety refusing stillness. This mirror effect explains why profitable paper trading strategies fail when real money enters the equation. The strategy hasn't changed, your execution has, because now your self-worth is attached to the outcome. Show me your trading history, and I'll diagnose whether you struggle more with control, validation, or acceptance. I'll identify whether your core issue is fear of loss, fear of missing out, or fear of being ordinary. The market strips away all pretense and reveals who you really are when money and ego collide. So what is your account revealing about your psychological patterns? And how do we build systematic controls that neutralize these emotional hijacks before they destroy your capital? The answer lies in constructing a dynamic risk engine with 3 critical dials that professional operators adjust in real time. The operator's risk engine has 3 interconnected dials that control your trading fate: size, stop, and state. Professional operators adjust these dials dynamically based on market conditions and internal weather, while gamblers set them once and ignore the feedback screaming at them to adapt. This isn't about finding the right settings. It's about conscious calibration based on real-time data flowing from both the market and your nervous system. Think of these dials like the controls on a race car. Size is your accelerator, stop is your brake, and state is your steering wheel. Professional drivers constantly adjust all 3 based on track conditions and their own physical state. Size isn't just about account percentage, it's about psychological capacity under current conditions. This transforms position sizing from a mathematical formula into a psychological thermostat that responds to your internal temperature. When you're calm, well-rested, and the setup is pristine with multiple confirmations, you can risk your normal 1%. This is your baseline operating procedure when all systems are green. But here's where operators separate from gamblers. When you're emotional, tired, or the setup is marginal, you automatically size down to 0.25%. No negotiation, no internal debate. When you've had 2 losses in a row, or detect any whisper of revenge trading in your mind, you drop to 0.1% or stop entirely. This isn't cowardice. It's variance management through psychological honesty. Your position size becomes inversely correlated with your emotional temperature. Hot and bothered equals smaller size or no trading. Cool and collected equals normal protocols. The mathematics support this counterintuitive approach. It's better to make small money when you're psychologically compromised than to lose big money trying to force normal performance during abnormal internal states. The stop dial represents where you admit your trade idea is invalidated, not where the loss feels comfortable. Gamblers place stops at arbitrary percentages or round numbers that feel psychologically safe. Operators place stops where market structure proves their thesis wrong, below key support, above resistance, or beyond technical invalidation levels. Your stop should be positioned where your analysis breaks down. Then you adjust position size accordingly to maintain your risk target. If proper stop placement creates a 2R risk, but you only want to risk 1R, you have your position size rather than move the stop to a technically meaningless level. State represents your psychological condition and functions as the master dial governing the other 2. Before every trade, you run a rapid diagnostic covering 3 critical factors: market condition, trending cleanly or chopping messily; personal state, calm and focused or emotional and scattered; and setup quality, A+ with multiple confirmations or marginal with partial signals. Here's the mechanical rule that removes emotion from discipline. If 2 of 3 factors are suboptimal, you either pass entirely or reduce size to 0.25% maximum. This diagnostic transforms discipline from a feeling into a switch you can flip. Clean trend, calm state, A+ setup equals full size with normal protocols. Choppy market, emotional state. Marginal setup equals pass or micro size only. No more internal debates about whether you should take a trade. The diagnostic provides the answer automatically, like a sniper who only fires when wind, visibility, and target positioning all align perfectly. Let's prove this with concrete mathematics. 2 traders, identical strategy and setup recognition. Trader A maintains static 1.5% risk, regardless of conditions, moves stops during emotional spikes, and ignores psychological state. Trader B implements dynamic sizing, 1% during optimal conditions, 0.25% when emotional or setup quality drops, 0.1% after consecutive losses. Over 100 trades with identical entry signals, Trader A's probability of ruin exceeds 40% due to emotional variance amplifying normal market variance. Trader B's ruin probability stays below 8% because the sizing protocol prevents emotional spiral disasters. The three dials create a feedback loop between market reality and psychological reality. As conditions deteriorate, exposure automatically contracts. As your emotional state fluctuates, risk adjusts accordingly. As setup quality varies, size calibrates to match probability. This prevents the classic retail mistake of maintaining static exposure regardless of changing internal or external conditions. Your risk engine becomes a dynamic shield that expands and contracts based on real-time threat assessment from both market structure and psychological state. But theory without implementation remains intellectual entertainment. The question becomes, how do you translate these dials into concrete daily protocols that actually override your impulses when money and ego start screaming? You need a systematic ritual that forces calibration before every trade, fast enough to use consistently, but thorough enough to catch emotional sabotage before it destroys your capital. Theory becomes reality through the 2-minute operator system, a pre-market warm-up that sets daily parameters, a pre-trade checklist that confirms every entry decision, and a post-trade journal that captures lessons while they're fresh. This isn't about perfection. It's about consistency. Every professional operator has a ritual that bridges the gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it when money and ego are screaming at you to abandon your plan. Discipline isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's a systematic process you execute under pressure. The pre-market warm-up takes 30 seconds and establishes your operating framework for the entire session. Check overnight news and economic calendar for volatility catalysts. Assess market structure, clean trend, choppy range, or transition zone. Rate your personal state using a simple traffic light system. Green means calm and focused. Yellow means slightly off but functional. Red means emotional or tired. Based on this rapid assessment, you set maximum daily loss limits and baseline position sizing. Yellow state automatically reduces size by 50%. Red state means paper trading only, or taking the day off entirely. The pre-trade checklist transforms every entry from emotional impulse into systematic evaluation through 7 rapid-fire steps. First, market condition assessment. Trending environment, where breakouts work, or choppy conditions favoring mean reversion. Second, personal state check updated in real time as emotions shift throughout the day. Third, setup quality rating on A+ to C scale, where A+ setups have multiple confirmations, while C-grade setups get passed entirely regardless of other factors. Fourth, position size calculation incorporating all variables. A+ setup in trending market, while green equals full size. B-grade setup in choppy conditions, while yellow equals quarter size maximum. Fifth, stop placement where your trade thesis breaks down technically, not where losses feel comfortable psychologically. If proper stop placement creates excessive account risk, you reduce position size rather than moving stops to meaningless levels. Sixth, profit target based on realistic risk-reward derived from market structure, not hope or greed. If resistance suggests 2R is achievable, but 4R requires breaking major levels, plan for 2R and adjust if markets cooperate. Seventh, one-sentence intention. I am trading this because daily trend is up. We're breaking consolidation with volume and risk-reward is 3-to-1 with clear invalidation below yesterday's low. This entire sequence takes under 2 minutes, but eliminates 80% of costly emotional decisions by forcing conscious evaluation before capital enters risk. If, then protocols function as pre-committed algorithms that remove real-time emotional decision-making during high-stress moments. These aren't suggestions. They're hard-coded responses, programmed during calm moments to execute automatically during emotional chaos. If first loss of day, reduce next position by 50% because emotional temperature rises after losses. If down 2R on any day, stop trading immediately because revenge probability spikes after significant losses. If VIX spikes above 30 and I feel emotional charge, no new trades for 30 minutes because volatility plus emotion equals poor decisions. If checking charts obsessively, I'm bored and must find other activities because boredom drives overtrading of marginal setups. If wanting to add to any losing position, immediately close entire position because adding to losers represents hope addiction, not strategy. If moving any stop loss to avoid planned loss, close position and take mandatory 15-minute break because stop violations indicate emotional hijacking. The post-trade journal captures 3 data points while fresh: emotional state during execution, complete checklist adherence, and what you'd change with identical circumstances. This creates feedback loops, improving your process over time while identifying emotional patterns before they become account-killing habits. The system acknowledges human psychology instead of fighting it. You will feel fear, greed, and boredom. You will want to deviate when money is at stake. The 2-minute operator system doesn't eliminate emotions. It neutralizes them through processes that execute regardless of internal weather. But how do these protocols perform when markets unleash real chaos? Testing every systematic defense with volatility spikes, whipsaws, and the psychological pressure that separates operators from gamblers? Protocols are theory until they meet chaos. The market becomes a ruthless teacher that grades you in real time, charging tuition in R multiples for every emotional deviation from your system. Today, we stress test your 2-minute operator system against 3 scenarios that routinely destroy retail accounts: news whipsaws, prolonged chop, and winning streaks. Picture a casino with mirrors instead of dealers. Every hand reflects your discipline back at you. The sniper metaphor matters now more than ever. Breathe, assess conditions, and only squeeze when everything aligns. Scenario 1. News whipsaw at market open. Federal Reserve announcement hits, futures gap 50 points, then reverse violently within 30 minutes. Gambler A sees the spike and chases with full size, convinced this breakout will pay for last week's losses. Gets whipsawed immediately, but refuses the planned stop because being wrong feels like death. Adds to the loser to improve his average, ignores daily maximum loss alerts, and keeps trading on pure tilt. By noon, he's down 8R with psychological damage that will poison next week's execution. Operator B faces identical chaos, but his pre-market assessment flagged high-impact news. State dial reads yellow from volatility. Market condition screams uncertainty. Setup quality drops to C grade. Size dial automatically reduces to 0.25% per protocol. Takes the clean 1R loss when stopped out. Switches immediately to observation mode to study volatility patterns. Recognizes that news-driven whipsaws create low-probability environments for his trend strategies. Ends flat while preserving both capital and emotional equilibrium. Scenario 2. 3 days of sideways grinding hell. Average true range contracts to multi-week lows. Every breakout fails. Every support test holds temporarily, then breaks. The dreaded chop trap that bleeds accounts through 1,000 tiny cuts. Gambler A keeps firing at marginal setups, because sitting still feels like losing opportunity. Takes B grade and C grade entries, lowering standards, because something has to work eventually. Frustration builds with each whipsaw. Revenge trading begins as boredom transforms into desperation. Bleeds 5R over 3 days while convincing himself he's staying active in tough conditions. Operator B recognizes the regime shift through ATR contraction and overlapping price action in his daily assessment. Implements chop filter automatically. Either trades microsize, 0.1% maximum, or stops entirely until directional clarity returns. His if-then protocol is crystal clear. If market shows range-bound characteristics for 2 consecutive days, reduce frequency and size or cease trading. Understands that professional operation means matching exposure to opportunity, not forcing action during inappropriate conditions. Loses 0.5R maximum while waiting for the market to provide genuine edges. Scenario 3. 4 winners in a row. And here's where most traders actually blow up. Gambler A interprets consecutive wins as proof of superior timing, increases position sizes because he's reading the market perfectly, starts taking marginal setups he'd normally pass. Overconfidence abandons risk protocols, just as variance prepares to revert. One afternoon of sloppy execution gives back 3 days of gains, plus interest. The psychological whiplash from winning high to losing hard creates worse tilt than simple consecutive losses. Operator B activates Green Day protocol religiously. After 2 consecutive wins, size dial automatically reduces 25% to lock in psychological gains and prevent overconfidence errors. Maintains identical A-grade setup criteria regardless of recent results, understanding that hot streaks end without warning. When the inevitable reversal arrives, smaller positions prevent giving back accumulated gains. Ends the week up 4R instead of flat. The mathematics tell the story. Same signals, different outcomes. Gambler A, minus 8R on Newsday, minus 5R through chop, minus 3R give back after streak. Total destruction of minus 16R. Operator B, flat on news, minus 0.5R through chop, plus 4R on streak. Net positive 3.5R with emotional capital preserved. That delta isn't genius or luck. It's systematic governance of human psychology under pressure. But implementing these protocols requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands rewiring your fundamental identity from reactive gambler to systematic operator. So what does this complete psychological transformation actually look like? The difference between blown accounts and consistent profits isn't intelligence, capital, or strategy. It's identity. Everything we've covered becomes sustainable only through complete psychological transformation from reactive gambler to systematic operator. Gamblers trade their opinions and seek validation from individual outcomes, creating emotional roller coasters that inevitably crash. Operators manage risk and seek consistency in process execution, creating steady compound growth that survives market chaos. This identity shift isn't philosophical window dressing. It's the foundational change that makes every protocol, checklist, and risk management technique actually stick when your account balance starts fluctuating wildly. Language becomes the fastest lever for rewiring your core identity, because how you speak shapes how you think, and how you think determines how you act under pressure. You stop saying, "I'm a trader," and start with, "I'm a risk manager," who expresses statistical edge through systematic position sizing. This isn't semantic games. It's cognitive restructuring that changes your entire relationship with uncertainty and outcomes. Gambler language reveals the toxic mindset that destroys accounts. "I need this trade to work" creates outcome dependency that destroys objectivity. "The market owes me after that last loss" anthropomorphizes price action and sets up revenge trading. "I'll make it back on the next one" ignores probability and creates sizing errors driven by desperation. This setup can't fail eliminates contingency, planning, and proper risk protocols. Operator language reflects professional thinking. I manage downside, upside manages itself, focuses on controllable risk rather than uncontrollable profits. Every loss is tuition paid to the market for education in probability, reframes losses as business expenses rather than personal failures. Process over outcome, always, creates emotional detachment from individual results while maintaining commitment to systematic execution. My job is surviving variance, not predicting direction. Eliminates the impossible task of being right and focuses on the achievable goal of consistent execution. This language shift enables complete business mindset reframing. Think like a casino owner managing blackjack tables. They don't care about individual hands. They care about statistical edge over thousands of hands. They manage risk systematically and let probability work in their favor through volume and consistency. Your trading business operates identically. You manage downside through position sizing and stops. Then let statistical edge compound through disciplined repetition. Your product becomes consistent execution under all market conditions. Your profit comes from managing downside risk systematically, not from maximizing upside through prediction or hope. Your competitive advantage lies in psychological discipline and risk management, not in superior market analysis or timing ability. Success gets measured by adherence to protocol rather than daily profit and loss, creating sustainable motivation that survives inevitable drawdown periods. To accelerate this transformation, design your environment to support the operator identity you're becoming. Remove trading apps from your phone to prevent impulsive position monitoring. Block social media during trading sessions to eliminate external noise. Pre-write your top 5 if-then rules on a sticky note directly in your visual field. Keep a printed copy of your operator creed visible. I manage risk, not outcomes. I control process, not results. I operate systems, not opinions. Your self-talk becomes operational rather than emotional. Replace "don't lose" with "follow the checklist." Replace "make it back" with "close platform at -2R." Replace "I feel good, let's go bigger" with "after 2 wins, reduce size 25%. These phrases connect directly to actions. Say them and act immediately. Expect psychological resistance. Your old gambler identity will bargain, distract, and dramatize, whispering that discipline is overkill and you can trust your gut because you're hot. Acknowledge it like a toddler demanding candy before dinner. Protocols are the dinner. Excitement is the candy. Each day you honor protocol over impulse. You cast a vote for the operator identity. 10 votes become habit. Habits become standards, and standards define who you are. But identity alone requires advanced systematic protections that operate beyond individual trades. How do professional operators shield their capital through portfolio-level variance management that would destroy even disciplined single-trade execution? Individual trade risk is just the beginning of professional operation. Advanced operators manage risk at the portfolio level through variance buffers that make account destruction mathematically improbable, even during the worst statistical clustering that markets can deliver. Think of your account as a fortress with concentric defensive rings. Outer walls absorb weekly shocks, middle walls contain daily damage, and inner chambers isolate individual trade losses. You'll never risk more than 2% of your account in any single week, regardless of how many perfect setups appear or how small individual trade sizes become. This weekly cap prevents the brutal mathematical reality that even properly sized trades can cluster into account-damaging sequences when variance works against you. After 3 consecutive losses, you automatically have position size for the next 5 trades because psychological research proves that loss streaks create emotional volatility that degrades decision-making quality exponentially. This isn't superstition. It's systematic variance management based on the fact that your emotional capacity for additional losses decreases dramatically after multiple failures, regardless of how mechanically you execute each individual trade. Correlation awareness becomes critical during market stress periods. When all your setups move together due to systematic events, you reduce overall exposure, even if individual opportunities look pristine. 5 technology breakouts triggered by the same artificial intelligence headline isn't diversification. It's concentrated leverage hiding behind multiple tickers. Advanced operators cap total correlated exposure to one normal position size or split it into micro positions that together equal one risk unit, preventing single macro headlines from hitting their entire portfolio simultaneously. Enter the compound protection system. 4 defensive layers operating at different timeframes, ensuring no single period can destroy your long-term compounding trajectory. Trade level limits individual risk to 1% maximum, preventing any single idea from causing significant damage. Daily level implements 2R maximum loss with automatic platform shutdown, because daily losses exceeding this threshold create psychological damage that poisons subsequent decision-making for days. Weekly level caps losses at 3R with mandatory 24-hour trading suspension, recognizing that weekly drawdowns beyond this point indicate either systematic problems requiring analysis or statistical clustering requiring patience rather than continued exposure. Monthly level triggers complete system review at 8R drawdown, because losses of this magnitude suggest fundamental strategy problems or psychological breakdown requiring professional intervention. Each layer protects the one above it through mathematical precision. Lose 1R Monday and 1R Tuesday. You're automatically finished for the week, regardless of Wednesday's opportunities. This removes emotional decision-making during the exact moments when emotions most likely compound losses into account destruction. Just as markets cycle through volatility measured by average true range, your psychology has emotional variance that fluctuates based on life stress, relationship issues, health problems, and financial pressure. Track your emotional state daily on a simple 1 to 10 scale, where 10 represents complete calm and 1 represents high stress or excitement. When your reading drops below 7, automatically reduce position sizing by 50%. Regardless of market conditions or setup quality, professional operators adjust exposure based on psychological capacity rather than pretending they maintain constant, rational decision-making ability under all life circumstances. Let's prove this with brutal mathematics. 2 traders, identical edge, 45% win rate, average win 2R, average loss 1R. Trader A risks 1% per trade with no weekly caps, ignores correlation, and sizes up emotionally after wins. Trader B implements the complete buffer system. 1% per trade, 2% weekly maximum, halves size after 3 losses, limits correlated exposure to 1 unit, and reduces size 50% when emotional score drops below 7. Over 100 trades, variance hits both equally. Trader A suffers correlated news shock during an emotional period, finishing down 15R despite positive expectancy. Trader B absorbs identical events, but the buffers activate automatically. Weekly cap limits damage to 2R, emotional protocol prevents tilt trading, correlation limits contain systematic shock. He finishes up 6R with lower stress and intact psychological capital. These variance buffers aren't trading handcuffs. They're guardrails that allow you to operate at higher speeds safely. Your compounding engine stays protected while your discipline remains sustainable through inevitable rough statistical patches. How do we integrate everything into one complete operational philosophy that transforms your entire relationship with risk and uncertainty? You've journeyed from the chaos of blown accounts to the clarity of systematic operation. The invisible saboteur, your survival instincts designed for physical threats, is now visible and manageable through conscious protocol implementation. The 3 account killers of fear, greed, and stimulation addiction are identified and neutralized through if-then responses that activate automatically when emotions spike. Your mirror market provides constant feedback for psychological calibration, revealing exactly which patterns are costing you money. The risk engine gives you dynamic control through size, stop, and state dials that adjust to real-time conditions. The 2-minute operator system bridges the execution gap between knowledge and action when money and ego collide. The variance buffers protect your capital at multiple timeframes, making account destruction mathematically improbable. Most critically, the identity shift from gambler to risk manager provides sustainable motivation that survives inevitable drawdowns and psychological challenges. Your new reality crystallizes into the operator's creed. I manage risk, not outcomes. I control process, not results. I operate systems, not opinions. I build wealth through consistency, not brilliance. This isn't just strategy, it's philosophy. Write this where you can see it every session. It represents fundamental reorientation from seeking excitement to creating sustainability, from chasing profits to preserving capital, from gambling on opinions to operating proven mathematical systems. Every word carries operational weight. Manage implies active, systematic control. Risk focuses on controllable downside rather than uncontrollable upside. Process emphasizes repeatable execution over random results. Systems create consistency that transcends individual intelligence or market timing ability. Becoming an operator isn't a destination. It's a daily choice made with every market decision. Every trade, every emotional spike, every unexpected news event presents the same binary fork. Will you react like a gambler seeking immediate validation? Or respond like an operator, following systematic protocols regardless of internal weather? Your survival, growth, and ultimate success depend on consistently choosing discipline over impulse, process over outcome, long-term compound growth over short-term emotional satisfaction. To cement this transformation, commit to a 30-day operator sprint starting immediately. Each day, execute 3 non-negotiable actions. First, complete the pre-market warm-up and write your operator's creed by hand. This neurological reinforcement rewires identity faster than mental repetition. Second, execute the complete pre-trade checklist for every entry, screenshot your setup with 1-sentence intention, and rate your adherence to protocol regardless of profit outcome. Third, log daily insights and share one key learning in our community thread. Public accountability creates commitment that private promises cannot match. You will face objections. Small account? Process scales down better than hope scales up. Variance buffers work at any size through percentage-based implementation. Slow market. Doing nothing becomes strategic action when probability is low. The sniper's edge comes from passing on most shots. One bad day? That's why layers exist. 2R stops contain daily damage. 3R caps contain weekly losses. 8R reviews contain monthly drawdowns. Remember the mathematics. Identical strategies diverge because emotional variance gets priced into results. Your buffers price it out systematically. When you slip, and you will, recover instantly through your predetermined protocol. Close the platform. Write a 3-line debrief identifying the emotional trigger and recommit to the next checklist without self-judgment. You're building anti-fragile systems where mistakes trigger improvements instead of spirals. Each protocol violation becomes data for strengthening your defensive layers rather than evidence of personal failure. The trading world desperately needs more operators and fewer gamblers. By implementing these concepts, you're contributing to more professional, sustainable markets that benefit everyone through reduced emotional volatility and improved price discovery. Your transformation ripples beyond personal profit into market-wide improvement. Your choice crystallizes now. React like a gambler who needs market validation, or respond like an operator who needs only protocol adherence. One path offers excitement spikes and regret winters. The other offers boring consistency and compound curves that slowly, then suddenly, transform your financial reality. The market casino is loud, but the teacher market is patient, repeating lessons until you pass. Share your biggest insight in the comments below. Commit to your 30-day operator sprint publicly. Join the community choosing process over chaos, consistency over excitement, professional operation over emotional gambling. The sniper breathes, aims, and fires only when conditions align. Your transformation starts with the next trade.